Well, welcome everyone to the latest webinar presented by Aerospace Tech Review. And the title of today's webinar is How Are Airlines and MROs Sharpening Their Digital Tools? My name is Mark Schultz, and I'm the founder of Digital Aircraft, and I am your moderator for today's webinar. And just a quick background of myself, just for those of you watching today. I've had 35 to 40 years in the aviation aerospace industry. My background is in airlines and MROs and original equipment manufacturers, and I've been involved in operations and understanding the needs of operations, as well as half of my career in the delivery of IT solutions. I've been involved in and around the delivery of about 250 different solutions, as well as worked with 1,000 different customers. And so the reason I tell you those things is that my goal today is to, from an operational perspective, is to help facilitate this particular webinar. So thanks for allowing me to be here today and to be the moderator and facilitator. Listen, before we start, I want to point out to you that there is a Q&A tab at the top right-hand side of your screen, and you're able to ask questions here at any time during the webinar, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can at the end. And also, just a little technical administration thing. If at any time your screen freezes, which sometimes happens, just go ahead and press refresh, and you'll be able to automatically rejoin us into the webinar. So let's go ahead and start out by having just a small amount of conversation and introduction to this webinar today. Airlines and MROs today and companies, they're all sharpening their digital capabilities in order for us to capitalize on the lessons that we learned, during some of the lockdowns where we were forced to be able to work more digitally. Just as new problems and challenges, restrict our ability to be able to prosper. By 2032, it's expected that the global MRO spending is going to reach about $126 billion, and that's up from $79 billion in 2022. So we're expecting this marketplace to be growing dramatically, and we all need to really be prepared for that. Airlines and MROs have spent the last couple of years revamping operations, really to counter the negative effects and challenges that we had, during the economic downturn. And that includes, thousands of airlines, aircraft being parked or being retired, and revenue streams being disrupted, and really supply chains being broken, and really just operations, really needing to be run remotely, which is a critical element and component of that. Now with some of the pandemic-related restrictions now being eased and flights are rapidly rebounding, we're really seeing some challenges in the industry in just ramping back up in order to be able to cope with these huge rebounds and demands in travel, from the severe staff shortages and other supply chain issues that we're really experiencing. Hey, just this morning, I was on a webinar with Eurocontrol, and they were talking about the economic impact of the industry. The average over the period of time between 2009 and 2019 was only a 5% profit in the airline industry. There was roughly $250 billion of profit during that time. And in the last 3 years, that's been completely wiped out with about $230 billion in loss. And so the reality is that we find ourselves in a place where we need to create operational efficiencies, and digital is one of the strongest ways that we can do that, given all the shortages and the challenges that are there in the industry. So there are various types of IT integrations or innovations that we can do within MROs, and with the advent of digitalization, with things such as artificial intelligence and machine learning and big data and blockchain, things like digital twins, cloud-based kind of softwares, SaaS platforms, software as a service platforms, really connected aircraft and other advanced and disruptive technologies, we can really make a significant impact in the industry. And with this growing digitalization, there are activities among airlines and MROs that are rapidly increasing, and different software platforms that are making a substantial, difference or impact in the industry. So all that being said, in today's webinar, we're planning to explore how airlines and MRO companies can utilize this IT and systems to be able to transform and to extract the efficiencies, the operational efficiencies that we're really looking for in daily operations. So that by way of an introduction, of the industry, I want to next move over to really introducing our panelists that we have today. And So our team today, which will be giving us a conversation and some presentations, are from AAR, from the AAR Corporation. And we're going to start out with Joel Blumenau. And Joel is the Director of Strategy and Planning and Innovation for AAR. And he started with AAR about 4 years ago, and he's the head of product support for a product that they have, which is called Airvolution. And that's one of the things they'll be discussing today. And Joel has spearheaded the launch of this platform, including customer service and the customer success initiatives, as well as really leading early development of the team efforts. He has over 20 years of experience leading SaaS, kind of efforts. And we're really looking forward to having him to be part of this conversation today. So I start by welcoming Joel.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here.
I really appreciate you being here and your ability to be able to contribute. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have two other participants that you'll hear in the background also doing demonstrations. We have Sheila Becker, who is also with us. And Sheila is the Senior Product Manager at AAR, and she oversees the development and implementation of the Airvolution. And this is AAR's, like I said, comprehensive cloud-based platform designed specifically for the management of aircraft components and repairs. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that, because that's really a challenging area in the industry today, is managing the flow of aircraft components and repairs. And throughout Sheila's career, she's supported different domestic and international efforts, both for government and other stakeholders, to help us to implement IT and emergency communications and cybersecurity type things. And so really she has a significant background in IT and cybersecurity, and she's authored multiple publications and presented on different topics in like international development and national security and the impact of emerging technology on just individuals and our privacy that we have, which is another very important part of the industry. So I wanted to thank Sheila for being here as well.
Thanks, Mark. Glad to be here.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sheila. And then last, who will be joining us in the conversation here is Matthew Kemerat. And Matthew is the Vice President of Planning and Strategy for Innovation at AAR. And he leads product innovation and R&D and a $2 billion aviation leader and service provider for the company. So anyway, Matt has worked in technology for 16 years and has a wide variety of industries, including 10 years of working with aerospace and with working in startups and global enterprises. And so his background is quite extensive in this area. And one of Matt's primary passions is finding ways, to bring startups and enterprise ecosystems closer together so that we can have an innovative, entrepreneurial kind of approach in both small and big companies. So thanks, team, for joining us, and we're looking forward to an interesting conversation. I want to point out that if you have questions during the presentation, you can put them in that question box, and we'll answer them at the end. And I'll also be interjecting over the course of the webinar today and just trying to get some further points of clarification as we go forward. But what I'm really going to do now is I'm going to turn this over to Joel and Sheila and Matt, and we're going to explore how airlines and MROs can utilize IT and their systems to be able to digitally transform and really look for and find the operational efficiencies that we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the AAR team. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everybody. It's good to be here. We're excited to talk to you today about Airvolution and the things that we're doing here at AAR. My history, just to give a little more detail, is like Mark said, I've been involved with software as a service products for over 20 years now. I actually moved to Chicago in 1995 to get involved in professional trading. So yes, I was one of those guys standing on a trading floor in a brightly colored jacket, yelling and screaming and pushing other guys for a living. For about 5 years, I did that. And then around 2000, I saw the handwriting on the wall, and I saw that the industry was about to be transformed by technology, and it became really apparent. And I left the trading floor, and I took what I was doing there upstairs. In other words, I took it to the screen, and I was really in on the ground floor of a disruptive moment in the financial industry. I saw sort of two camps of people, right? I saw early adapters who went with the flow of what was happening in finance around technology. And then I saw the resistors, right? And the resistors fought tooth and nail for their livelihood, and I couldn't blame them. I understood how disturbing what was going on was for them, because I was in the midst of it too. But but the end result was I left the floor, and a few years later, the people who were on that resistance side were calling me for a job. It was just the reality of the moment. And, the adapters flourished, and the early adapters flourished to the greatest extent. And it's just the way of the world when it comes to technology. So fast forward about 16 years from that point, and Matt Camerate, the VP of our division here now, found me through an executive recruiter. And he knew that I had this background and this experience in finance around this technology transformation that was going on, and he had a product and an idea more than a product actually at that point that he wanted to apply to the aviation space, which became Airvolution. We saw he and other visionaries here at AAR at that time saw a gap in the technology space around aviation, particularly when it came to repair cycle management. We found that most repair cycle management teams are really dependent on a few things to manage their process. It's their ERP usually, email, and a spreadsheet typically, right? And maybe, for some of the bigger teams, a few ancillary tools, thrown into the mix. But what they all seem to lack, and we lacked this as well until we developed Airvolution initially for ourselves, was a single source of truth, a single pane of glass through which they could manage the repair cycle management process and communicate with their suppliers and customers if they had outside customers. And that was the birth. That's what drove the birth of Airvolution, which, like I said, we developed initially for ourselves, and then in the last few years began to bring it to the aviation repair cycle management marketplace, right?
Hey, Joel, quick strategic question. Most of us have been in the industry for a long time, know AAR as an MRO service provider or a parts provider, and many of us don't really know and understand, the digital aspect of the company and the delivery of solutions like this. Is that a strategic component of AAR's business?
Absolutely. Now it is. Yes, it wasn't always. I definitely understand that point of view on AAR. We are known, at least in the Americas, as an MRO provider. But in the last, I would say, 6 to 7 years, not that we've moved away from MRO by any means. That's definitely still, a huge part of our business. But like I said, we've recognized the need in the aviation space for digital tools like never before. And that disruption I described in the financial world that I experienced, we feel like we're right on the verge of that now in the aviation space. And we particularly, Raul Guy, who's our chief digital officer, and Matt and myself, we talk all the time about the difference between being a follower in the digital space and being a leader, right? And what we want to position AAR to do going forward is to lead that disruptive change, lead that move into a future that is driven by digital tools as opposed to just kind of responding and reacting to what everyone else is doing, which is always a temptation when there's any kind of risk involved in any kind of new technology. There's always that temptation to, let them make the mistakes and then we'll clean up the mess afterwards. But you really can't have that attitude because you'll just be left behind, every time.
Well, what's really perfect about this is that, you have that operational experience, which feeds right into, the development, and then the business experience with the expansive parts programs that you have, understanding the needs of the customers, so the ability to be able to use all that operational experience and deliver digital solutions. I just really find that a powerful position.
Yeah. And we do as well. And we hope that our customers see us that way as well. We now have dozens of customers of our own, that we service through the Airvolution platform or some version of it. We have a couple different versions of it. The one you're going to see today is what we consider more the self-service version. And it's, it was specifically designed to bring, small to medium size and even large repair cycle management teams up to speed very quickly, right? We can onboard very quickly. We can do a certain level of customization for each new client and really sort of fit our tool into their process and then create efficiencies when it comes to turnaround time as well as cost savings. We also find that the typical repair cycle team is very focused on turnaround time. We understand that. At the same time, they're probably spending money they don't have to spend, which this tool can also help them to avoid, right? So, and I'm going to turn it over to Sheila in a minute here, and she's going to actually walk you through the more formal presentation, but I will be here the whole time, and we can continue to talk about it, have a discussion about it. Again, feel free to interrupt or throw questions in the Q&A. We'll answer them as we go along and at the end, like Mark said.
Yeah, absolutely. I know also, alrighty. Before we get started, I did want to mention, as per this statement, as a public company, we just wanted to take a moment to say, please base your decisions on publicly available information related to our to our platform. These are kind of some disclaimers that you'll see with regards to the presentation. We will say, forward-looking statements, but, as a publicly traded company, we can only have so many caveats around what we can and cannot deliver with regards to the platform. All right. You already know who we are, but just to quickly reiterate, we represent AAR. We are based out of Wooddale, Illinois, which is about 55 minutes north of the Chicago area in the United States. I'm Sheila Becker. I'm a senior product manager within strategy planning and innovation within our digital services team. With me today is Matt Camerate, our vice president for strategy planning and innovation, and Joel Blumenau, who just finished speaking, and he's our director. So just a little bit of background around who we are at AR and what we do. We were founded in 1951, and we started off as Allen Aircraft Radio, a small business supplying equipment to the fledgling commercial aviation industry. Since then, we've evolved into a leading global provider of aviation services to commercial and government operators, MROs, and OEMs. As an extension of our supply chain services, the mission of our digital services team, of which Matt, Joel, and I are members, is to unlock internal efficiencies and new revenue opportunities for AAR through innovation and the use of emerging technologies. As you can see here, these technologies range from anywhere from AI and ML, drones, the Internet of Things, and general software as a service products. One example of this kind of hands-on innovation that I'm talking about is Airvolution. Like Joel mentioned previously, we have a lot of experience engaging with aviation repair cycle management teams. From this experience, we've seen that the typical RCM team is diligent and dedicated to keeping planes in the air. Moreover, the tendency of these teams is to prioritize turnaround time, or TAT, by making the choice that gets components out of repair stations the fastest. Although quick and expedient, this approach forces teams to choose between a quicker turnaround time and a less than optimized cost profile. In fact, we've seen that 3 to 5% inefficiency in the ecosystem is very common, resulting in several $1 million in lost annual revenue for mid to large size carriers. We've also learned that most RCM teams believe that they are prioritizing their work in the right way. However, they're actually missing out on a lot of great opportunities to improve their performance because they're managing such a complex repair process using email and outdated spreadsheets. So the question now becomes, how can AR help? To address these challenges and overcome risks, we at AR have created Airvolution, the most comprehensive end-to-end repair cycle management tool focused specifically on the management of aircraft component repairs. Like I mentioned previously, this tool was designed to meet the demands of the aviation supply chain and incorporates decades of our industry experience to help repair teams reduce their operational costs, maximize productivity, deliver enhanced component availability, increase transparency to all stages of their repair cycle, minimize their turnaround times, and streamline order management. Airvolution also offers a significant return on investment for repair teams of all sizes, especially those managing high volumes of repair orders, so they can, better organize their workflows, quote more effectively, make informed inventory decisions, decrease those process bottlenecks, and reduce risks to passenger operations by avoiding those critical AOG situations. In particular, the platform helps staff overcome the managing to the exception mentality where teams need to mark orders AOG or expedite just to get them out the door. In sum, really leveraging Airvolution's dynamic capabilities will help teams realize tangible cost savings and efficiencies in the near and longer term. So based off that overview, I would like to pause if there are any questions or comments, or Mark, if you wanted to add anything before I transition to the live demo.
I don't see we have any questions yet, but let me just encourage people watching is that during the process of seeing the live demo, you will likely see things which will cause questions to come up, and we'd really like to try to answer them for you. And so please just put your comments or your questions into the Q&A box, and we'll try to do our best to answer them. So go ahead, Sheila.
Yeah. And before Sheila starts, I would just like to add a note here. What Sheila is about to show you is our demo environment, which is not our production environment. Our production environment is a certain degree more robust than what you're about to see. But what you will get an idea about from this demo are the capabilities of the system, kind of the breadth and depth of the system. And, just keep in mind that there's a certain level of customization that we can always do, and that the real production environment is going to be very tailored to your process. And like I said, more robust than what you're about to see here. We'd love to show you the production environment, but we'd get in a lot of trouble with our clients, and we'd be violating some of our NDAs. So
yeah. And when Joel says production environment, for those who aren't as familiar with software as a service, production means just your live system, the system that the user would use day in and day out. For our first customer, who is a Textron Aviation Defense based out of Wichita, Kansas, we've done a lot of really great work customizing the platform, automating workflows, developing really handy graphs and visualizations for them. But also, like Joel mentioned, there's some issues regarding data privacy and integrity that we have to be mindful of. Okay. Alrighty. So right here, what you're going to see is the dashboard. Like I was just mentioning, through the extensive use of customizable visual graphics, data analytics, and reporting, Airvolution supports informed decision-making and improved cost oversight for all key players on your repair team. We're currently on the dashboard, or what we would like to consider the command center of Airvolution. Here, you'll see a live critical stats bar, which you can use to help your team prioritize the next best action and improve visibility into all work in progress. These dynamic widgets that you see here that can be filtered, by key criteria, such as customer and supplier, are customized to address your priority needs, can help you monitor vendor and customer turnaround time, items in queue, or even just how many things have been completed and versus in progress. If we scroll down here, you'll see what we call the repair status by RO aging table, which helps teams understand order aging by status, days since creation, and days at current state. So if you look here, so days since creation and days at current state. So you can see really which orders have been in queue the longest and address those that need attention as soon as you can. Now I'm on what we call the repair cycle management, or RCM page. One of the best things about Airvolution is that we are a robust, secure, and scalable cloud-based system, and we also provide a variety of integration capabilities with existing ERP systems, including those accessed by your suppliers. As such, Airvolution can decrease your organization's digital footprint and migrate you away from that system of systems approach to RO management by helping you maintain or exceed current productivity levels.
And by the way, Sheila, there was a question that Matt and I both just answered in the Q&A section regarding integration with ERPs. Yep. So we are agnostic as far as that's concerned, and we feel like we could integrate with pretty much any ERP out there. We certainly are familiar with all the most common ones. So
yeah, and the integration with the ERP can be anywhere from low automation, so we're ingesting email into the system, to something as highly automated as an application programming interface or API. That's just based on what you guys would need the system to do. And we also have the capability to do a one-way data transfer, so from your ERP into Airvolution, or we can facilitate a two-way where it's from your ERP to Airvolution, but then also writes back to your ERP.
Yep.
So you have that one system of record.
EDI is also available. We're currently using an SFTP site for some clients. So yeah, it's very flexible.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything else? All righty. So kind of like you saw on the dashboard, the RCM page hosts another live critical stats bar, which documents the status of all of the repair orders in your portfolio. One of the things that's most notable about these critical stats is that they're meant to map to each stage of your repair cycle. So if you wanted to see how many new ROs you're dealing with, how many are shipping outbound from your customer, this view will dynamically change based off the critical stat that you are clicking. So it's just easier for you to find the order that you're looking for. Also on this page are a series of filters that you can filter, ROs by status, priority, even supplier and work scope, kind of like hone down that list a little bit more. And then finally over here is a live search bar. So you can search by such terms as part number, serial number, and things like that. Okay. So now I'm going to go into the body of an order so we can see what kind of information is contained therein.
Hey, Sheila, I wonder if I could ask a quick question.
Yeah.
Just before you go into the next level of detail, just for our viewers out there, what is the core business challenge that you're trying to solve right now? So what is the business problem you're solving with the system that you're showing people right now?
Yeah. So the core business problem is, I would say, and Matt and Joel can feel free to interject here, is that repair cycle teams are sacrificing, their bottom line for turnaround time. And this tool helps them realize both, that they can have those turnaround times and streamline their processes while also not having to sacrifice like high cost profiles.
I would add communication efficiencies to that.
Mm-hmm.
With using Textron as an example, we're onboarding all of their suppliers and all of their customers to the same platform, right? So they now have this, it's an ecosystem, a repair cycle ecosystem of which they're all participating in real time, right? So there's that level of communication where they're not depending on emails or missing emails, getting behind on quote approval process, any of those typical day-to-day hurdles that we all experience when we don't have the tools to really do the job.
So basically, if I can just restate what the two of you just said, is that you're taking a process today, which is, manual intensive, and there's data that's distributed in many different places and maybe not readily accessible by the people that need it. And you're bringing that information together into a common environment to make it easier to be able to access the information and to be able to understand it and consume it and make management decisions, based on the information that you're seeing in front of you for the entire component repair process. Is that a correct statement?
That sums it up really nicely. Yep.
Okay, great. Good. So I just like to do that sometimes so that when people are out there watching, they're saying, what is this business problem I'm trying to solve? Okay, that's the business problem we're trying to solve. Now, as Sheila goes forward, you can kind of see how the approach is that Airvolution is taking to accomplish that.
Yep.
No, that was a great question, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So as you see here, I've opened an order where we can see specific, repair order details. At the top of this page, you'll see this great expandable view where you can find more, again, in-depth information related to an order, such as, part number, serial number. Here's where we would have information on any part defects or work required, as well as information about the proposed work scope for the order. You can also, in Airvolution, create quotes that are taken in from your suppliers, and you can also approve them and share them through different stages of your team, especially if you want to make sure that the costs provided by your suppliers are adhering to any pre-established agreements or contracts that you had. And then also here you'll see that we have the ability to track shipping information for parts in transit, which is always a huge headache for repair teams. One of the things that we've done for our current customer that Joel was alluding to is that by integrating their customers and suppliers, it gives them more visibility into where a part is in transit, since customers and suppliers can enter in key shipping data such as date shipped, date delivered, and a tracking number. Also on here, you'll see is that we have the ability to upload documentation related to your order. So the examples provided here are, a picture of a part, different perspectives of said part, as well as a quote. One of the great things about Airvolution is that we have the capability to launch OCR, or optical character recognition. So if there was something that you wanted to upload in terms of documentation through a PDF or a Word document, we could read that, scan that, and upload that information for you into the system. And then finally, we have the ability to integrate with emails. So, instead of having to manage your entire process through email, we can either have the email from your Outlook incorporated into here, or you have the ability to develop and send emails related to an order in Airvolution based off a series of templates.
And this pane here in the lower right-hand corner that Sheila's showing you behind the pop-up box there, maybe the most powerful part is, it's kind of unassuming looking, but it may be the most powerful part of the whole system, in the sense that, using Textron again as a good example, we're kind of wrapping up their implementation, and that's at the moment, so that's why we keep bringing them up. But they didn't know that a part was in transit to their warehouse until it showed up on their dock. And now that they have their customers and their suppliers on the Airvolution platform, like I said, there's that real-time communication going on, and so they can plan for a part to be coming in. They can start to get the wheels in motion with their suppliers, and there's this flow of information that was completely absent before. So,
hey, Joel, you brought up a couple of times, the word Textron. Is that currently a little bit of a case study? You could share the information about what their business problem was and why they're implementing such a solution?
I've been kind of interjecting that all along here, and we will eventually write up a white paper that we can share. It doesn't exist yet, but we will write that up eventually, and be happy to share it for sure. But yeah, they came to us with very typical concerns for a repair cycle team. Like I said, that communication between themselves, their customers, and their suppliers, the shipping flow back and forth. And just overall process management, communication along the lines of anything, related to where a particular part was in terms of status and location, all of the usual pain points for a repair cycle team, and we've been addressing them all pretty much one by one with this tool. So,
excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So I've got a couple of more things I would like to show you just to walk you through this. The idea of having a turnaround time report, as you can see here. Again, this is another example of the dynamic widgets and customizable widgets that we can provide to you as part of your Airvolution implementation. We view the turnaround time report really as a supplier performance report. At the top here, you'll see that it's another what we call critical stats bar. So you can see, based around turnaround time, what are the key metrics that you would like to track for your company or your portfolio. And you can also filter these components by certain suppliers, for example. So if you wanted to see the turnaround time for a specific supplier, especially in relation to how long it takes for them to acknowledge they've received a part, how many days it takes for them to be in final repair, and so on and so forth. This is very useful information, especially as teams, they enter into agreements with suppliers for specific types of turnaround times for specific parts. You can see if they're abiding by the agreement.
And this, by the way, this view right here is a really good example of what I mentioned at the beginning. With the actual production environment being much more robust than what you're seeing here. This is kind of just a suggestion for what we can do. And once we get into your specific data needs, we can really build this out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because turnaround time has different metrics for different teams. And the best part
Yeah.
about the widgets, like we said, that like they can customize to be to the chat metrics that you would need to track. And then finally here, you'll see a supplier list. This is essentially a contact list for, the active suppliers that you have working with your team. There is the opportunity where you can edit this contact information. And especially this is useful in terms of the email integration that we referenced to earlier. So you can make sure that you're sending your messages to the right people. And then that is the end of the demonstration. Outside of these notifications that we can have as well, again, we can customize these notifications based off what you need. Right here, the examples you see are, high priority orders, and they're telling you exactly what needs to happen. So kind of like in different parts of the system, it helps your team prioritize that next best action.
Sheila, there's a couple of questions that have come in, and I actually have one myself. Can we answer a few of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we do that, Mark, I would just also mention once again, there's a level of analytics that we can supply that is not really well demonstrated here. Again, I'm kind of regretting that we can't show you our live production environment at the moment, but we can really take analytics to a whole new level. It's something that we find that repair cycle management teams typically have very little of. At best, they might have a spreadsheet that somebody spends hours and hours on every week generating. In our case, we can take your live data. We can develop views that make the most sense for your process and present them in, like I said, a really robust, real-time way that would be a huge advantage over anything you can do in a spreadsheet. So.
Yeah, and it also eliminates the need for that manual data, download and entry and, redoing those graphs every month, because those graphs are feeding off data that is currently in the system. They're very dynamic. And so they will update in real time.
Yep.
Great. Let me add on to that. You've mentioned earlier that there's some OCR capabilities in the system. You've mentioned that there's some analytics and BI, that's in the system. Can you give us sort of a picture of, what kind of robotic process automation or machine learning or analytics or what's happening in the system that can reduce some of the manual processes that most people in repair, component repair are faced with in managing the process?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we can do that we are, is on the roadmap for implementing with our pilot customer Textron is that this system has the ability to implement a capability called Fast Track. I think that's what it's called, Joel.
Yep.
Where in terms of quoting, it's very helpful for teams that, have contractual levels that, like, if it's below this level or if it's in a certain percentage of this dollar figure, the quote can be automatically approved. And the supplier can begin work on the order. That's just one example that could be done in terms of, that process automation.
Right. And we can obviously write the rules for that fit your process, obviously. So,
yeah.
That's one of the more highly customizable parts of the platform.
Yes. And also in terms of automation and helping, teams manage their processes more efficiently is that, when you look at these critical stats here that you see on this RCM page, we have in our current implementation for Textron added 2 new critical stats for past due orders and orders that are aircraft on ground or AOG. So it really does help teams identify the orders that are most at risk. And trying to, giving them the ability to follow up with those repairs without having to dig through email that's marked high importance is another example that has helped that. And then again, with the analytics capabilities, like Joel was alluding to earlier, having the data that feeds those analytics in our system, updating live in real time, helps teams also with reporting up the chain, up their management chain, it gives them a really clear snapshot of how many items are in work, what is, highest priority, where are their risks identified so they can, mitigate them in real time.
And going forward in the future, when it comes to automation, there is no limit, right? We are actively involved with artificial intelligence efforts. We bring third parties that are expert in artificial intelligence, machine learning, et cetera, into the mix all the time. And we're doing a lot of research along those lines. And, like I said, once we have the data, once the data is flowing on a regular basis, there's really no limit to what you can do with it. Even, we're even looking into things like predictive maintenance and that sort of path.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I think that probably answers, most of my questions on that. Another question is, if you were to look at who the user of this type of a system would it be a manufacturer or an MRO or an airline, or who's the best user of this kind of a system?
I mean, our original thoughts were MROs and airlines, but we think that, anyone involved with the repair cycle process could apply Airvolution. There really isn't, we don't feel restricted in that sense. We don't feel as if, it's only designed for an airline or only designed for somebody at the MRO level. OEMs, you name it, anyone involved with, serviceable and non-serviceable parts and repairs, we could apply the system.
And one of the things that I did want to add to that effect is that we have the ability to develop customizable views. So if there are different members of your team that perform different functions within the RCM cycle, we have the ability to support that. Like if you need person X to only look at fields 1 through 10, but person Y looks at 12 through 15, we can do that for you. So there is that gradation. It's not a one size fits all kind of approach.
So we have another question that's come in from one of the viewers. It says, does the analytics capability cover historical data? So for example, could average turnaround times be calculated?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. In our current implementation, we're going back through Textron for their turnaround time figures within 1 calendar year. On our path as well, like Joel was alluding to with AI and ML, sky's the limit, things with predictive analytics. That's also on our roadmap.
We're also working on data sharing. So, we have plenty of repair cycle data ourselves, which we could contribute to the pool. And we're looking at the concept of having our customers contribute their data, which we obviously would anonymize, and, trying to get a feel for how that would work best, right? So our idea at the moment is if you're willing to contribute your own data, then we would provide access to that pricing data for free. If you're not willing to commit your own data to the pool, then we would charge for it. But there are a lot of possibilities around that when we get sort of a critical mass of customers using the system and willing to commit to that pool of data anonymously, obviously.
Joel, just a quick comment. I've been on the floor at MROs where they've had challenges in being able to control that pricing. They'll sell one part at $3,000 and then the same part at $12,000, because they don't have control over what even their own pricing points are within their own system. And so I think having access to that kind of information is extremely valuable in a consolidated manner.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, one other thought I had is, I don't really know exactly how big AAR is these days, but I remembered in my history that AAR parts business is one of the largest in the world. Is it not today?
It is. As Matt, I know Matt's on the line. He's having some volume problems. He would know better than me probably what the actual numbers are right now.
What I was asking is it's very significant. And I would imagine that the fact that you manage and move so many parts has really played into the business rules and cases that you've used in developing this environment.
Yeah, it is. I know it's a major contributor to our revenue as well as to our bottom line. It's one of our main businesses for sure.
Yeah, and given that, my only point is that AAR has a very comprehensive understanding of parts and the movement of parts and the repair processes, as well as in your own MROs. And I really like that as a background in the development of a solution like this, because many IT organizations, don't really have operational experience. They're developing it by collecting the information from many other people. Right. And I like the fact that AAR has such an extensive network of repairs and repair processes, as well as, the parts business, and bringing that knowledge and those business rules together in a solution like this, really provides a solid foundation for capability in the system.
Yep. Yeah. And it's a symbiotic relationship, right? The digital team is relying on the parts and repair team and the MROs themselves, and vice versa, right? So
it looks like we've come to the end of the published questions. If anybody else has any final questions, it would be great for you to put them in. Do we have any final comments, Sheila or Joel, or from Matt?
I think, just advancing through the slides real quick. If you guys want to learn more or schedule a demo specifically for your team, please, visit our website, aarcorp.com/airvolution, or email us directly at airvolutionsupport@aarcorp.com, and we're happy to set that up for you.
Do you find yourself in a position where people reach out to you and you help to give them, consultative advice to understand what their environment is and how they might best solve those problems?
Yes, absolutely. We've had repair teams of all sizes kind of come to us and be like, these are my pain points. How do I do this? And in a lot of ways, we're able to help them solution something. Right now, we are in the process of finding and engaging other parties outside of Textron that are interested in Airvolution. And a lot of the problems are the same across teams, no matter what the size or the scope of their work. It's, inefficiencies, turnaround time, things related to making sure that they're maintaining, warranty claims, cost profiles. It's the whole gamut, but it seems to be no matter where you are, it's the same.
Do you find yourself doing pilot projects or phased implementations where people can get a trial of something, or is there a way to approach that?
It's kind of a heavy implementation to do as a trial, but we're always open to sort of new constructs as far as that's concerned, right? So we're still early enough in the process with this particular offering that we can be really flexible. Let me put it that way.
Okay, perfect. So Sheila, I see you have a contact information on there. So they should go to your website at aarcorp.com, Airvolution, or email the group there with that email address on the screen. Perfect.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Any other thoughts from the three of you?
I think we pretty well covered it. Anything else you wanted to add, Sheila, or Matt, if you want to hit me on chat here? He's having microphone problems.
You're good. Well, it's been a really good discussion, and I want to thank Joel and Sheila and Matt for the interesting, insightful discussion and presentation. I hope all of you watching have really enjoyed it. I really believe I've seen a lot of different systems. Listen, the year before we all went into the lockdown, I personally traveled 480,000 miles around the world, and that means sleeping on an airplane 2 or 3 nights a week, visiting, airlines, MROs, and different operations. And this is a real problem. And those of you watching, if this is the world that you live in, it's a real problem. And when we're all looking for efficiencies in these areas, this is the type of thing which can create, significant efficiencies. What gets measured gets managed. And when we can collect data like this and provide, management information and be able to make good decisions, we as people and teams can optimize our environments if we have the right information to be able to do that. So listen, to the AR team, I really congratulate you on such a great solution that you put together.
Thank you, Mark. We really appreciate it. We appreciate everyone's time today. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And please, if anyone's interested, the contact information is there. We look forward to engaging you.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, hey, listen, as we bring the webinar to a close, I just want to remind you that the new Aerospace Tech Week Americas exhibition and conference is coming up real soon. It's on the 8th and 9th of November in Atlanta in the U.S. And registration is currently open. And there actually is an early bird rate that goes through the 8th of October. And so it's coming up quick. And so you'll want to book now, and you'll be able to save a good amount of money on your conference and delegate pass. And you can register at aerosspacetechweek.com/Americas. And just for another little plug is that I'll be doing some promotion for the upcoming event with Aerospace Tech Week. And so look forward to seeing online different potential speakers and presenters that will be at the event, and learn more about it. You're not going to want to miss it. This is really an exciting event. Following that, the Aerospace Tech Week Europe is moving from Toulouse to Munich this year, and is going to be held on the 29th and 30th of March, 2023. and the registration will be opening soon later this year. And you can find out more about that one at aerospace-tech-week.com/Europe. That stands to be another exciting event. That's an ongoing one that's been going on for years right now. So you can look out for the next webinar from Aerospace Tech Review by going to the website, which is www.aerospace-tech-review.com. And there's a lot of great webinars. And one of the things that I've found over my career is we need to leverage the knowledge of those around us. And we can do that by working with different vendors and with different business partners and event conference organizers. And if we can just learn about the things that are around us, we can move innovation forward in our own organizations and really be successful. So it's great. And I want to thank all of you for attending, and we appreciate it and look forward to the next webinar. Bye for now.
Thanks all.